Get ready, New York. Wait till you see the crowds who will be there to greet Pope Francis. They just want to catch a glimpse of him. People walking, running, taking bikes, getting to these locations as quickly as they can for that very moment. He said something very poignant this morning. He said the yardstick we use for others will in the future be the yardstick used for us. So many poignant remarks we heard before Congress this morning, Chris.
And enjoy your meal.
Just listening in with the Pope here.
Bon appetito. Enjoy your meal. What a moment here. So here he will be greeting so many people that have been waiting really for hours in these barricaded areas, just trying to say hello to the Pope. And he is there to meet with them, to hear their needs, and to really take what they say back with him to Rome. Of course, he will be bringing these messages to New York. The countdown clock is ticking down, and to see him in New York will be something special. We've had 3 other popes in New York: Pope Benedict, Pope John Paul II, and Pope Paul back in 1965. So quite a number of them have been in New York. But this Pope, who is instantly recognized, so many know him, so many like him, we will see many people out there, of course, awaiting his arrival later this afternoon.
And Mary, and tell me if you agree with me on this. He's had so many events. This 78-year-old Pope has kept such an active schedule since he touched foot on U.S. soil. And it looked as sometimes that, you know, maybe he was starting to feel a little bit, because it was a very active schedule. They've got him on the move, but he is so happy and just so overjoyed when he is in the presence of not only children, but those less fortunate. And there just seems to me there is a different smile on his face when he's with these people. Not that he doesn't enjoy being with some of the politicians that he's had to spend time with since he's been here, but you can see just the unbridled joy on his face. It equals the joy of the people that he's being able to spend some time with and reach out to and touch. He always says dialogue is what moves us forward, and everything that comes out of this Pope's mouth seems to resonate with all of the people that he's been so fortunate enough to confront here these last few hours on U.S. soil.
Chris, you know, all of the people we spoke to here in D.C. have mentioned that, his humility. He doesn't like pomp and circumstance, and I think you're right about that. There is a different look on his face when he is in a crowd of the faithful. You could see a big smile. You can see him reach for hugs. You can see him really looking forward to being in those crowds. Not sure if security really likes this, because as we're watching, security is trying to push a number of people out of the way to get him through, but he certainly doesn't mind at all. As he was traveling through the city, he was getting out of his vehicle when he could. Here he is greeting babies. It was just incredible to see how he has made himself so accessible to those who have turned out to see him. Never before have we seen anything quite like this. Right now he's just in the middle of the crowd. Usually you would see people moved away in barricades, but that at this point have let him get right in the middle of everyone. And there you see that great broad smile you were talking about, Chris.
It's so funny, because this is the closest, I think, with the exception of some of the children that he was able to greet when he came out of the Vatican residence in Washington. This is some of the closest, from a proximity standpoint, that we've been able to see the faithful get with the Pope here in kind of a not necessarily as controlled an environment. You can see security is right there with him, and they do a very nice job of kind of gently moving people's hands away if they lunge a little bit too close to the Pope. His translator is right there on his left shoulder, as you can see, and people taking every opportunity. You saw that gentleman right there with his iPhone to get that selfie with the Pope. These are coveted moments, and to see this joy. There's something about this Pope. I know the one thing that we've talked about over and over again, he's just this, you listen to this man and you see what he's all about, and that philosophy of that being so modest, being so humble. He is the type of Pope, whether you're Catholic or not, you want to reach out and hug. And it looks as though everyone that literally comes across this Pope does, in some way, shape, or form, want to reach out and touch him as much as he wants to do the same to them.
And you could see the broad smiles on their faces as well. It's been so nice to witness this. When he comes across, someone gets close to them. Here he is with a little girl, you know, and he's doing this each and every time. But the smiles don't go away quickly after he does greet someone. And some people have been actually very overcome. with tears, with emotion after meeting this Pope. But there he is, right there in the middle of the crowd. And you said it, this may be the closest he has been to a crowded area since he has been in Washington, D.C., and in the Americas, in fact. But look at those cameras. They want that selfie for sure.
Yeah,
those go viral, as we've seen.
That's for sure. These are these are great shots. Mary, are you surprised with the stamina of this Pope? I know we've mentioned it before. 78 years old, a very, very active schedule from the moment he wakes till the moment he sleeps while here in Washington. Then, of course, when he comes to New York and then on to Philadelphia. But he looks like he is ready to go here just past noon.
I have been really surprised at the number of events that were scheduled for him, especially the number of crowds that he's been taken through when he was in Washington throughout yesterday and also today as well, giving speeches in between all of that. But you know, Chris, I wanted to mention this. Oftentimes you hear about rock stars who are so kind to stop and greet the entire crowd. Well, can I tell you, each and every time there is a crowd with Pope Francis, he doesn't leave that crowd. He goes from the beginning of that line all the way till the end and tries to greet as many people as possible. It's been quite remarkable to see him do all of this. And again, 78 years old, this has not been easy. Of course, there's a time change involved in this. He has not been getting much rest. Hopefully, he will get a little bit of rest tonight when he is in New York. He will have a little bit of time to take a break. But yes, it has been a very busy schedule for Pope Francis.
And also very taxing, not just from the standpoint of the scheduling, but also to be the first Pope to speak before a joint session of Congress, about a 52-minute speech, all in English for the most part. That's got to be difficult because we know English is not his first language. And also touching, and we're going to, of course, touch on this with some of our reporters coming up here in the next few minutes, but also just hitting on some very hot-button issues, from climate change to immigration to marriage to income equality, among others. This has been not only a mission for this Pope, where it's to get out there with the faithful and see what he's been doing now, but also there are a number of messages, and I think those messages have been conveyed in such a way not to over-politicize things, but done in such a way where I think Congress and other people listening to this Pope are getting the message of what he is all about in the new direction of the Catholic Church behind this Pope.
There were a number of quotes that were used today that certainly were heard. One of them, building a future of freedom requires love of the common good. He really has been trying to reach out to everyone, no matter what side of the political aisle you are on, to try to bring people together in a cohesive unity. He also added this, and I thought this was significant too. He said, "I'm happy that America continues to be the land of dreams." And there was this real big uproar and applause when he did say that. He referred to a number of Americans. He referred to Abraham Lincoln during that address. He referred to Martin Luther King Jr. 3 times during the address. And Chris, you could hear that thunderous applause throughout. About a dozen times we heard applause, standing ovations as well. Of course, on a number of topics that were very controversial, some people did not stand, some people did not applaud, and I think we were expecting that as well.
Yeah, they had asked Congress to be on their best behavior today, but you knew there would be some that would take it upon themselves to do, as you mentioned, not applause or not stand up. For the most part, though, I thought the bipartisanship was able to somewhat stay at bay. As you did mention, he was able to reference Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, Dorothy Day, Thomas Merton, among others. It was, from what I've been listening to and some of the reviews that I've seen, a well-received speech at that joint session of Congress. And another nice moment following that, not only walking through Statuary Hall, but then also making a quick appearance on the Speaker's balcony with John Boehner, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, a number of others on the balcony there to again then address the crowds, the thousands of people that were outside the Capitol building that had been watching on large monitors. He was able to step up to a microphone that they had placed there and again say a few words in Spanish and then end it with a "God bless America," which received a resounding, thunderous applause from Washington today. Again, as we bring you live pictures here on CBS 2 News here at noon. We're about 11 minutes after the hour right now. You see our papal visit countdown clock on your screen. We are at 4 hours and just over 48 minutes before the Pope touches down at John F. Kennedy International Airport. He has been keeping a very tight schedule, but he has also been very good about being just about on time for every event that he has had scheduled on this visit so far. So we are expecting an on-time arrival at JFK, where our coverage will continue in earnest here on CBS 2 as the Pope touches down here in New York City.